We are heading into week 10 of the fantasy football season. Joe and I are here to give you our starts and sits for week 10. Joe, before we get started, why don't we start talking about the Thursday night game? You got the Bears versus the Panthers. Are you even going to be watching the game? Let's just check with that first.
Yeah, I'm gonna still watch the game. Just the fact that it's football season. Heck, man, we're already in week 10. We're not gonna have this much longer. So yeah, I'm gonna be watching, even though it's not the best matchup, because not too much longer here. We're gonna be screaming for any sort of football.
You're not wrong there, Joe. So you've got, let's talk about the matchup. You've got Tyson Bagent and Bryce Young at the quarterback. You're not starting Tyson, or are you? And are you starting Bryce Young? I mean, this is a super flex consideration. You're not starting them as your week one quarterback. Your QB1 in a one quarterback league.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you wouldn't be, but there are some teams on bye this week where you may have to consider it. I would prefer to play Bagent tonight than Bryce Young personally.
Oh, I disagree. I have Bryce Young. I highly considered starting him, but I just couldn't do it. I thought he was going to do really well against the Colts because that was a juicy matchup, and he didn't do it. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, why I can't. I don't know if I could start him here either.
I wouldn't. I mean, the Bears, people have been looking for this, team to be a real good matchup, but they've actually been a little bit stingier on defense of late, especially against the run. And I don't know, Bryce Young just hasn't looked that great, and I think Kyler Gordon, kind of like Kenny Moore did last week, could give him some trouble tonight in the slot when he targets Thielen.
Interesting. Okay, so on the running back side, then you're not going to want to start Miles Sanders or Chuba Hubbard, I presume, based on what you just said.
No, if I had to start, I mean, I'd prefer to go Chuba over Miles Sanders. He's just been getting the volume, but we've seen the past few weeks, even a guy like Austin Eckler didn't do well against this Bears defense. So, I mean, Chuba Hubbard will also get the receiving game work too, so I give him the advantage there.
Yeah, I would not. I actually would give the advantage to Sanders. I actually think the reason why Chuba has been getting more volume is because they've been trying to ease Sanders back in from that groin injury. So he actually started getting a little more volume last week. But I'm not starting either of them to be honest.
In an ideal world, you wouldn't start either. But in the case of Classic Mike in that tweet earlier today, he had Chuba or Jacoby Myers, and I told him to go Chuba because I mean, I don't have high expectations for Jacoby Myers against the Jets defense either. So
no, both are really bad. I think you'd want to pick up somebody. I don't really like either matchup.
No, me neither.
How about D'Onta Foreman on the Bears side? Herbert is out for the game. Roshan's been kind of an afterthought. This is a revenge game for Foreman, right? He played in Carolina, did pretty well. I think I might start. I think he's got flex appeal.
Yeah, I think you could definitely play Foreman. I mean, since he's gotten the opportunities, he's really shown out and played well. So I'd expect that to continue. I'd be playing him.
So we're going through the Thursday night football game against the Bears and the Panthers. We just went through quarterbacks and running backs. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them below in the comments. We'd love to be able to answer one. We actually already do have a comment from Sean. He says, still no Thursday reports for Seattle. I have Chuba, Cook, and Charbonnet. Wondering to hold and wait for possible sharps. Fall back on James Cook. I wouldn't start Chuba Hubbard. We're just talking about him. I wouldn't start Chuba Hubbard. I actually like Charbonnet. He's starting to get more volume than Kenneth Walker. For whatever reason, Pete Carroll just has a thing for Zach Charbonnet. So I hear you on this. I think I start James Cook over Charbonnet, but it's close in my view.
I would, I think I'd wait and wait for a Charbonnet, and then if you have to start James Cook, I wouldn't feel good about it. Even though it's Broncos, it looks like a good matchup. The Bills just don't use the guy. Broncos have been getting better on defense as well. But I do think Charbonnet is your best option of the three here.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Charbonnet is a good play. I really do. That's why I was torn between the two, but I do like it. And if you are chasing the points, I think Charbonnet might have – I see Charbonnet possibly doing better than Cook. I see it more – because like you said, they just don't use Cook enough.
Yeah.
for him to really smash. Appreciate your question there, Sean. So heading over to the wide receivers then. Joe, what are you thinking there? For the Bears, you got DJ Moore. That's about it. You starting Moore?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably, if I had, he'd be a flex consideration, I think. I don't know about, wide receiver 1 or 2. He's been okay with Bagent. This is a decent matchup, so I think he's flex worthy.
Interesting. I'd say he's low flex appeal for me. He's not a guy I really want to play. But last time I said it, he went completely off. They played Thursday Night Football the last time, and he went off with Justin Fields, right? So maybe you should play him just because of that reason alone. Go over to the other side of the ball, the Panthers. You got to play Thielen. Thielen is just a target hog. I don't know if I'm playing anybody else, though.
Yeah, no, Thielen, and that's pretty much it. I mean, DJ Chark's out tonight. Mingo really hasn't shown enough to be start worthy at this point. So Thielen, and that's it. Yeah.
And then going over to the tight end position, you got Cole Kmet with the Bears. He's been doing a lot better than what I think you and I both expected. You starting Kmet this week?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, look, Bagent has been targeting him, and that was the only thing I didn't like with Fields was Fields just didn't target Kmet. I mean, he had only like 60 some targets last season, so I just didn't. That's for one of the reasons I didn't like him. But with Bagent seems to target him. He's been looking at him for touchdowns, so yeah, I'd be comfortable starting Kmet.
Yeah, I think I would start him as well. Like you said, Bagent's been targeting him, so with Kelsey on bye, he would have got it, but he's injured anyways. Then you've got a couple premium tight ends that are not going to be able to play, so you may need to go with a Cole Kmet. And then how about on the Panthers side? Hayden Hurst, he's not starting worthy.
No, yeah, I mean Hayden Hurst, Tommy Trumbull, those guys aren't starting worthy.
No, not at all. So before we go on to our next segment, again, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below. That's what Joe and I are here for, to answer your questions, to give you any sort of advice, to be able to help you win your matchups. We're happy to help in any way we can. So, Joe, going over to the quarterbacks, who is your smash play for quarterback this week?
Yeah, I'm going with Jared Goff this week. He's been a top 5 QB when he throws for multiple touchdowns. I feel like he's got a good chance to do that this week against the Chargers. And this game has the highest combined point total this week. So people are looking for this one to be a shootout. Vegas is predicting it. And if it happens, I like Goff to get those multiple touchdowns and be a top 5 guy. And then the Chargers have also allowed the second most fantasy points to the quarterback position this season, which bodes pretty well for him. I was looking at, possible people that I would be starting, Goff over, or even over Goff. But there's really only, since I think he's going to be a top 5 play, there's only really one quarterback I might consider, and that was, Lamar, with the matchup against the Cleveland defense that's been pretty stingy. I know the last time he did pretty well, but that was also because he had 4 touchdowns. So I feel like if he doesn't have the multiple touchdowns, he doesn't have that top 5 upside this week against the Browns.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out for you. I think the Lions and Chargers, it should be they're both of their I feel like their defenses are susceptible to a lot of yards. And so I think as a result, that shootout you're talking about could definitely be in store. So I like Goff this week. I think he could definitely. I don't know if he's going to smash per se. I think he's going to do well. I just don't know if he's going to smash.
Hey, he's got a good chance, man. Patrick Mahomes is on bye, Jalen Hurts, so Tua. I feel like he's got a good chance to get in there.
That's a good point. There's a lot of big. That's Hurts, Mahomes, and like you said, and Tua. Those are like 3 of the top 5 right there. So you're definitely going to be looking at quarterbacks. So my sleeper play for quarterback this week is quarterback Will Levis. We just saw C.J. Stroud light up the Buccaneers. So is it Levis's turn? Over the past 3 weeks, not including Tampa Bay's bye, they have allowed the QB1 in Stroud for week 9, the QB2 in Josh Allen for week 7, and then the QB2 in Jared Goff for week 8. So Levis has had a disappointing week, against the Steelers. He only had 267 passing yards, an interception, but it was a tough matchup in Pittsburgh. I think Levis is going to have a very good game, though, against the Bucs due to what they've done over these past few weeks. So I think he will right the ship against the Bucs. I'm taking him instead of Geno Smith versus Washington, even though it is a good matchup for him. Russell Wilson at Buffalo and Brock Purdy at Jacksonville. I like Levis better than all three of those guys.
Yeah, I could see that. I like Levis's potential in this game, as I'll talk about later in the show here. But yeah, I like your call outs. Brock Purdy would be the possibly the only one there, but it isn't the best matchup for Brock Purdy. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense has actually been pretty good, so I could see you starting him over all three of those guys.
I meant to say Jared Goff in week 6 for Tampa Bay, but I just think that Levis, we saw what he did in his rookie debut. He had multiple touchdown game. It was really impressive. So I think Tampa is one of the best matchups going. And the thing is, I try to be very mindful of is when you look at these rankings of how when you're like, oh, the opposing player, this is what the team does against this opposing position, right? You got to look at it recently, because if you see the Denver Broncos, it's like, oh, the Denver Broncos. Well, yeah, they were horrible, for the first few weeks. Their defense has really clamped down. So you really got to be, what has happened over the past few weeks. You really got to dial in there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. The looking at recency bias definitely helps, especially for these defensive matchups. A lot of things change over the course of the season, so definitely try to look within the last 2 to 3 weeks. I'd say that's good advice.
I think I lost your audio. I can't hear you.
Oh, you lost me. Let me see here.
Technical problems. Buffering.
Yeah. What's going on here? Can you hear me now?
Thank you, Nate. Can you hear me and Joe?
He says yes, both. You can hear me.
I can't hear you.
Is it your headphones?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
I wonder why that is. I changed it. I made sure that it's got it going through the mic here.
Can you unplug and plug in your headphone?
Well, my audio is not through my headphones. It's for the mic here. Nate says he can translate.
I can't hear you.
How can you not hear me? I don't get it.
Well, due to technical difficulties, we're going to have to postpone this live start sit. Hopefully we'll be back soon.